Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Feature Friday. Here we are today. My name is Jackie Kwan. I'm co-founder of Uplifter. And with me again today is Garrett Trod, our product expert. Today we're going to be looking at the global settings. Uplifter is a very, very customizable piece of software, and we want to make sure that you can actually get the most out of Uplifter. I know a lot of you have come on board and just got up and running and put together the bare minimum, but probably not aware of all the ideal and different things that you can actually customize your site with. So Garrett's going to go through that. So Garrett, are you ready to go?
I'm never ready, but yeah, we'll kick things off anyways. Yes, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Today we're going to look at the global settings. If you joined us last week, we took a peek at the Uplifter settings, which looks primarily at the gears and cogs behind the scenes and how your site and system function. Today we're going to look at the global settings, which looks more towards the interactive nature of your site and system when it comes to your members and your participants. So without further ado, let's pop over to our administrative side, and we're going to navigate to Settings, Global Settings, and we're going to see these 4 tabs along the top here. The first tab that we're going to go through today is the Look and Feel tab, which allows us to first off specify our default page information. So this information here is our site title, our site description, and the keywords we want to add. And these are for SEO and analytic purposes. We can also add a Google Analytics ID in here to track with Google Analytics as people progress through the different pages. Now, these items are also customizable on a per public page basis as well. So as you're setting up your public pages, you can of course set these up and customize these per page if you'd like to. Next, down here, we've got our navigations and links. Now, in this section here, you'll be able to, if you're one of our older clients, you'll be able to enable the login pop-up. Now, if you're a brand new site with Uplifter, this is enabled for you by default, but essentially, what this is going to do is instead of logging in through the standard login form, which you may be familiar with, looks like this. Instead of logging in through this, we now offer a more fluid login option through a pop-up. So if you enable that pop-up and someone clicks to register and they haven't logged in, it's a pop-up and they can log in through that window rather than being taken away from the registration page and then having to navigate back to it. So this is a much smoother experience. The next we have the display home link. So if you'd like to, on your public page, you can have a home icon that shows up in your main menu, just a little house icon. That brings people back to your root page. They can also do the same thing by selecting your banner icon, which is a pretty standard way of navigating back home to the root page. So most users will be accustomed to that as long as they've used the internet previously. Next, we have our system-generated pages, the news posts and the contact us page. These pages are system-generated, and you can toggle or enable or disable them by toggling these checkboxes here. This allows you to have a news page, which will show posts that you can create through communications posts, and a contact us page, which people can navigate to and send in a little inquiry, maybe to the registrar or maybe to even to the president, whoever you need to. And of course, you do need to set up these emails through the global settings email addresses page, which we'll look at in just a moment. Next, we have our footer contact details. So you can actually opt in to show specific information in the footer of your public page. So if we go down to the very bottom here, what shows up in the bottom here? And we also have the payment icons. Now, in our last instance where we looked at the Uplifter settings, we talked a little bit about the merchant credentials and, the merchant credentials page and, your payment methods and things like that. One of the payment methods you can have is a credit card. And when you have that credit card set up, you can toggle whether or not you want to display certain credit cards. So, we take Visa, MasterCard, Amex, what have you. If you'd like to, and you have those set to display, you can also have them display in your footer. Next, we have our external home URL. If you are using Uplifter primarily for the registration purposes, you can link back to your original site by putting the URL here, and that will show up on your public page as a link right here. It says back to main site, and they can click on that icon to return them back to your main page. Our next option here is we have the product subscriptions and volunteer sign-up links. These links are what display in a variety of different templates on the public page, but they also display on the checkout. So here we have add programs, purchase products, purchase subscriptions, etc. And here we have add programs, purchase products, purchase subscriptions, etc. So this is where you can create and customize these buttons. So during the checkout process, people have added things to cart. Maybe you want to have some of those like high-end items, or maybe some what's the word I'm looking for with the checkout? Jackie, help me out here. When they when they're checking
upgrades. I mean, one place where I would probably
upsells.
upsells. Yes. One thing that I would typically do in this case is if there's something you want to actually promote, like let's say you have a monthly membership that you a recurring membership that you would actually like to promote people to purchasing. I would send a link there, and they don't actually have to be actual shopping pages. They certainly could be customized pages that you've created. Maybe you've just launched some of your clubwear and you want to create a specific page using our add to cart HTML buttons and create a specific shopping page for your clubwear. You can certainly point to that page from here. So lots of different options.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So yeah, absolutely. So you can create those as you'd like. You can add as many as you want. You can enable or disable them or completely get rid of them, whatever you'd like to do to make sure that this shopping cart shows the buttons and links that you want it to. Again, these will also show on certain templates on your public page. And next we have the ability to enable or disable the subscription checkout pop-up. If you do have some non-mandatory subscriptions, you may want to check this box off, as during the checkout process, the system will then suggest those subscriptions to the user and say, hey, what about some of these? And they can add those to the cart at their liking. And finally, in this section, we have the volunteer commitments custom message. Should someone need to volunteer, so if you've set up volunteer requirements on your season and they're checking out and they have not yet met those requirements, you can customize the message and say, hey, you haven't met these requirements, please click here, or here's a list of the options. And very much like these buttons here, you can have it link to your volunteer page or link elsewhere. Whatever you'd like to do in this message, you can customize that completely. In the next section, we now have our terminology. This allows you to make changes to the terminology that we use on a site-wide basis. So maybe it's not members, maybe it's parents and guardians, maybe it's not participants, maybe it's skaters or gymnasts or individuals or what have you. So you can make these changes, and this actually affects the entire site and system, so that we'll use those terms throughout the entirety. And our second last item here is our default ticket background. With the tickets, you can customize these on an individual basis. So if you do have a unique ticket background you want to use, you can absolutely upload that when you're creating that ticket. But it can be very handy to have a default background set here so that on your standardized tickets, you just use the same background for each one. If you do happen to want to know the scale of certain things, if you go up to the top here and select this book icon, this will bring you to our settings page here, or our settings article, global settings. If you go into the look and feel option here, we do actually have some more information about the default ticket background. And when you select this learn more here, it's actually going to talk about the scale of things and the results thereof. So this image here is 380 by 340, and this is the resulting ticket, and so on and so forth. You can see the scale and the results, and the scale and the results. So that way you can sort of get a proper scaling for your images. Excellent. And the very last element here is our default tabs. This allows you to specify the default tab when users go to their achievements page. Many of our administrators are probably familiar with this achievements page here. When you land on this achievements page, you have a completed view, a list view, and a requirement view. And for some clubs and organizations, certain views are more akin to the way that they talk about information, the way they discuss and dissect information. So you may want to prioritize one of these views over the other, and that is something that you can do here, and that affects both the administrative and the public side views. So of course, if you've made any changes to any of the elements here, don't forget to click Save All down to the bottom left, and that's actually a floating button, so it'll always be right there for you. Let's pop up to the top and go to Notifications and Messages. In the notifications and messages section, as that name might suggest, we get to customize a lot of the information that's presented to our users during certain circumstances. So first we have our account creation setting here, and this is going to be what's shown when users are first creating their member accounts. So if we were to open up this information here, you can see there's some information here that's specified, just talks a little bit about what's expected. You can actually customize this information here and have, club specific or organization specific information. You can also toggle whether or not a member is required to specify their birth date. One reason why you may want a member's birth date is because it is often the case, or sometimes the case at least, that a member will be creating themselves as an individual as well. So if they are going to be doing something of that nature and your organization has age-specific requirements for certain classes or programs, you may want to make sure the member's specifying their age, which then is then extrapolated to the participant. And next we have the disable sign up address fields. Now this is enabled by default on all of our new clubs, and any existing club can come here and enable this if they'd like. This makes your site much more akin to your standard checkout process with something like Amazon or Shopify, where you can create an account with just a username and an email and a username, whereas you don't need to enter in your address information right at checkout. So I don't have this enabled presently, and because of that, I need to enter in my address information, but maybe I don't want to add that in right away, or maybe, that's sort of hindering the flow a little bit. You can disable that, and then the address information is only required during the checkout process, so that's when they can enter it in. That, again, is much more akin to your standard and modernized checkout flows. Next, we have our cookie policies. I know a lot of you guys are using this already. You can enable a cookie policy to pop up. I'm sure you guys have all seen this on websites. You're probably sick of them. Well, you can be annoying too. You can enable this and you can specify your cookie policy and just let them know what you guys are all about in terms of your cookies. And next we have our invoice messages. You can actually specify different messages based off of offline purchases or global purchases, and it'll let people know, thank you so much for making a purchase or registering, or let them know any additional information they may need to know after making a registration. Global messages will appear on every single invoice, so it'll show up on everything that they may buy, and offline messages will show up only if they've made an offline payment, so check, cash, e-transfer, stuff like that. It'll show this message for offline payments, and it'll say, please have the check-in in the next 2 weeks, something of that nature. Our next option here is the checkout notification. We can enable, disable, or enable by default this feature here. And essentially what this is going to do is allow us to send out checkout notifications when users or participants register for certain programs. You'll see the different circumstances for when a message might be sent out. And primarily this is for instructors. It's not only for instructors, but primarily is. And so this will send out a message or notification to your instructor when someone has registered for a program that they teach, or when one of their particular participants happens to register for a program. So this is a great way to keep your team and your extended team informed about what's happening.
What's really good about that checkout notification is that it doesn't actually send a full copy of the registration invoice. It just sends very basic information about the participant that's registered and the program that they're registered in. So this is great for any clubs that have private coaches, where the private coaches aren't necessarily in control of the financials of the club, and they don't need to worry about those details. They just want to know which kids are coming to which classes, because I need to be ready to prepare my lesson plans for that. So really great for skating clubs that have a lot of private coaches running that portion.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Our next section here is going to be the payment installment notifications. And so if you have installments set up with any of your programs or your products, you can specify the message that users receive when an installment has been processed, once it's actually gone through, whether it's been declined, and you can also set up an upcoming payment message as well to let them know, hey, you have an upcoming installment payable by check. Please make sure you actually come in and pay us.
Another side note on that notification as well is that if you are using our batch invoice feature, any payments that are processed as a result of that batch invoice feature will also display the same custom notice at the top of the processing of those payments.
I'm trouble sorry, I'm
Are you
trouble
still there?
unmuting myself. I
still
swear
there?
I clicked the button.
Garrett, did you leave me? Like, I can't even control the screen to finish off the webinar.
You're on your own, lady. Next, we have our overdue payment notification, and this allows you to specify when an overdue notification is sent out, whether it's never, weekly, or monthly. And of course, when you select either weekly or monthly, you can select the day of the week or the day of the month, and you can specify the message. This just lets people know, hey, you owe us money. You haven't paid us that money. Please pay us that money.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like
that's what you can make your message say. Next, we have our waitlist options, and here we can specify whether or not we want to hide the waitlist position. There are only a few circumstances that I've seen thus far where hiding the waitlist is advantageous for like competitions and stuff like that. More often than not, people knowing their waitlist position is handy, but you can definitely hide that if you want. Next, we have our enable waitlist notifications, and this does need to be enabled if you want the system to handle your waitlist positions for you. What that means is if this is not enabled, then those who are in a waitlist position and have an available position to register for, that will actually need to be handled manually. Whereas if you do have this enabled and you have some messages set up here, what will happen is if a position opens up, then the system will automatically send a notice to the user, and after this many days, if they don't respond or they don't take that position, it will move on to the next person automatically for you. So this is the number of days that the system will wait before notifying the next person. And of course, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish.
Okay. This is our waitlist notification message. So this is the message that is sent out to them to alert them that the position is available. And then should they not respond within the specified number of days, then this is the waitlist removal message, which will tell them they have lost their chance. Jackie, over to you.
Yes, we have some generic text that automatically appears in these waitlist notification emails, but this allows you to customize it to a greater degree. One thing of note too with Uplifter is with the automatic waitlists, we do them in sequence. So we keep track of who put themselves on the waitlist in what sequence and what position. And when a spot opens up, it goes to the next person in line. So it's completely queued. Make sure that everybody gets their fair chance and the number of days that they get to take over that chance. So I know a lot of other systems out there don't necessarily do it in queue, and it's just sort of a free-for-all if a position's open. So Uplifter manages all that for you. Another note for all of these specific notification customizations and whatnot, take a look at what plan you're on. Our gold plan, definitely Gold and Enterprise, has access to all of these different notifications and customizations. Depending on whether or not you're on light or bronze, some of these customizations may not be available to you. So just take a look, and if you are on one of those plans, you'll see that some of these fields are disabled. If you want to take a look at them and access these, you can certainly contact us to upgrade your tier so that you can access these additional automated and customizable features of Uplifter.
You're always looking out for me. See, I never learn from my mistakes. I never specify that these are
Well, it's because we want everybody to be on Gold because it's like the Cadillac, right?
Oh, yes.
The Rolls Royce of software. But, not everybody can afford it. So, yeah.
Excellent. So let's pop up back to the top. And again, if you do make any changes in here, don't forget to click Save All here. Next, we're going to move over to the Custom Fields tab. Now, we have actually quite a few videos and webinars where we talk in detail about custom fields. So more than likely, most of you already know these, and I'm sort of talking your ear off here again. So we'll actually run through this very, very lightly. Essentially, custom fields are a way for you and your organization to ask for information that Uplifter doesn't ask for naturally. So by default, if a member is signing up, for instance, we're going to ask them for their name, their gender, and stuff like that. But there might be other pieces of information that are important to you as an organization that we don't ask for naturally. So for instance, this emergency contact name and emergency contact number, these are custom fields. I've added these to the member field, so they're associated to the member or the parent or guardian. And I've added these and had set them to be requested during the member creation. And of course, a member can also go to their account and they can edit and view that on their account as well after creation. So what these fields will do is allow you to specify where certain pieces, where these fields show up and what type of information is required from them. You'll have things like free-form text, where you can ask for really anything. They put any gibberish in there. You do whole numbers. You can do date pickers, drop-down boxes where you specify the items that they can select from. And of course, on the gold and enterprise tiers, you'll also have things like file uploads for MP3s. You'll also, if you are affiliated with Skate Canada, you can also get the figure skating element fields if you are going to have competitions, so you can have singles, pairs, dance, etc. So there is a ton that you can do with these. And so if Uplifter doesn't capture the type of data that you need that's specific to your organization, you can absolutely make a field through custom fields that does that and captures that data. And then of course you can report on that as well. That's custom fields. If you do have any questions or concerns about these, please let us know. Again, we have a lot of other videos, so I didn't want to go too deep into this as reiterating that for like the 90th time there.
I was terrified that you were going to go through each and every custom field type.
Yeah, I know.
It's Friday afternoon, man.
No one wants to listen. So let's pop over to the email addresses section here. And so email addresses, there's really two main sections to this page. We're going to skip over sending domain presently, and we're going to pop down to the email aliases. This is the primary element where most people are going to be taking action. An email alias, as you can see here, if you want to send an email through Uplifter, you need an email alias. And so in order to do so, you just select add email alias, and here you can specify the name. Mine might be Garrett, and then here you can do the email address, so maybe garrett@email.com.
It might be Garrett.
It might be Garrett. I don't know what my name is. And then here you have the default from address. We'll talk about that in just a second. We also have the contact us form. Now, we talked a little bit about enabling, disabling the contact us form under the look and feel tab here. So if you do enable the contact us form, it does require that you add an email alias and that you add a contact us form description. And finally, that you grant it the receives contact us permission. So this list of this row of icons here, this is actually a series of permissions that you can grant to each email that you add. And of course, you can add more than one email here. You can give them varying permissions. And so there's permissions like they can send out. If you need to send emails through Uplifter, you'll want to give it that can send out permission, but not every email needs that. You can have the receives contact us information. There's the receives copy of invoices, which is perfect for treasurers or accountants who really aren't involved with the system itself, but still need to be apprised of that type of information. There's the receive system notifications and receives checkout notifications. And finally, the default from address. So when you are sending out emails, this would be the address that's selected by default, but you can change that if you'd like. Now, when setting this up, Jackie, I can you want to interject so bad, don't you?
No. I just do that to wait to see if
throw
it's
me
better.
Off.
But I can interject if you'd like.
So here we have Garrett@email.com. And so what's going to happen here with this current setting is when I send an email out through Uplifter, people are going to receive it as no reply at democlub.uplifterinc.com. And of course, this is going to be specific to your organization. When they click the reply button, however, it's going to go to this email address. Now, it's this is the standard for emailing, and of course, you know, just a few jerks ruined it for the rest of us. So this is the way that things need to work. But if you do own your own domain, you can set up a sending domain so that when you actually send things out, they come from your owned domain. So maybe I own email.com, maybe I'm a trillionaire, and so I can send.
Why are you working here?
It's just fun, you know. I just enjoy my day. So I'm going to do that by adding a sending domain. So I can click sending domain and I enter in the domain that I own. So here I'm going to add in email.com. This is,
let me know how that works for
yeah,
you.
I will, absolutely. I would add no HTTP, no www. It's just the domain and then domain section there. So I'm going to click OK. And what this is going to do is it's going to generate a TXT record for me. Now, this is one of the more technical things that you can do with Uplifter. So if you do have questions or concerns about this, you're not really sure how to proceed, no worries. Please reach out to us. We'll help you through it. But essentially, what this is going to require you to do is create a TXT record on your domain's DNS. And so that can vary a tiny bit depending on the DNS that you have, whether it's Namecheap or GoDaddy or whomever it might be. But you'll need to create that record and you'll need to use this value here. Sometimes they require the quotes, sometimes they don't. But every single domain host will have documentation on how to add a TXT record and will showcase what they need and what they don't need.
You want me to interject here?
Go ahead. I can hear you like wringing your hands. You're so stressed out right now.
No, I'm actually I'm having a snack.
Oh, okay.
This is a very technical part of Uplifter, but a very customizable and very powerful part of Uplifter that allows you to really customize how your communication is received by your members. Not only that, but having a domain verification method in the way that we're describing here provides for greater, I'm going to call, deliverability of your email. So because of how much spam goes out in the world, you can't just say, I am Jackie@gmail.com, and I'm going to be sending email wherever I like from wherever I want. That's how spammers, spam the entire internet.
That's how they talk, isn't it?
That's how they talk.
I'm going to do this now.
I'm just going to do this now. There are certain constraints when sending email, and when email servers are receiving an email saying, we're only going to accept email that we know that we can verify who it's being sent from. So using this domain verification tool allows us to basically say, on your behalf, Uplifter is going to send email based off of your domain, and when an email server receives that email, they'll be able to look at this and they'll say, I'm going to verify that they are who they say they are, that thisclub.com is actually sending email from thisclub.com, and that's what this does. So if you are a club that has been using Uplifter's email tools, and users, some of them are getting caught in their spam filters and whatnot, and you have your own email domain, I really highly recommend setting up a sending domain. It will reduce some of the spam that gets caught by your users, certainly. So and produce better deliverability results, as it were, for your email.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jackie. So yes, we do have a video specific on this. Jackie was kind enough to create a sending domain video, which can help you guide you through that. And of course, we are always here to help you out. We have gone 8 minutes over. I apologize. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We have.
I'm never mind. Sorry, it's not even funny anymore. I tried to make a joke, and it's not even funny.
I was talking too fast. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, if you do make any changes in the global settings, please click Save All to keep those changes. We will be back next week. Jackie, what are we doing next week?
Aren't you doing it? I'm not preparing. Aren't you preparing?
I am, yeah. But
we're talking,
giving you a reason to speak.
Lead in. So yeah, next week we are going to talk about a special type of discount that Garrett's going to set up for us. Our discounts feature is incredibly powerful. Again, through Uplifter, you can do so many different combinations of discounts and fees, and Garrett's going to show us one of the more complicated sort of setups with discounts. So if you are looking at different ways to set up some automated discounts through Uplifter, be sure to tune in next week. We've got a lot of exciting features coming out as well over the next little while, and we know that everybody is, getting ready to cautiously move forward with, with restrictions slowly being lifted, and we're trying to give you all the tools to help you get up and running, and with as little work as least work as possible in your administrative tools. So, thank you so much for joining us, and as always, if you want to contact us, support@uplifterinc.com. Garrett, anything else for this Friday afternoon?
Nope. Thank you, everyone, and
thanks,
hope you have
everyone.
a wonderful weekend.
Take care.